Well, what is happening, everybody? Welcome to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show. And today we've got a really good friend of mine. Man, this girl is absolutely slaying it. Anna Glennon, a lot of you on social media know her as JetGirl, but she's running in the E1 series and just coming off a massive win there in Spain. So going to be fun to catch up with a good friend of mine. One of those people lives 30 minutes away and we hardly ever see each other, but stoked to going to have Anna on the show today. Before we jump into that, though, got to talk about a few different things. I know the format of the show has changed a little bit this year. We're doing these kind of drops of multiple shows all at once. Hopefully you guys are liking it. I'm busy, but been killing it on the YouTube channel and doing a lot of content there pretty regular. So hopefully you guys are subscribed over there on YouTube and catching everything. If you're watching the audio or the video version of this, you guys are on YouTube. You already know what's up. But as we jump into things, obviously we've got our partners at General Tire, Vision Wheel, Dirtfish, Rigid Industries. Thanks for the continued support. Another one of my partners, and they got something really big going on for the 4th of July week. My friends at Apex Gaming PCs. You go to their website, apexgamingpcs.com. But the week of the 4th of July, I believe it's July 1st through the 6th, they are absolutely putting on a blockbuster sale. 25% off. Yes, 25% off a custom gaming PC. You can hit the link down here, whether you're in the footnotes of the podcast, the audio version, or you're here on YouTube. Make sure and hit the link. It'll take you over to their site. Check out the discount code there that are in the footnotes, but 25% off an Apex Gaming PC. I do all of my editing for this show. All my YouTube editing, all my gaming, it's all done in a Apex Gaming PC, and stoked for, not only my relationship with them, but to pass on some massive savings like 25% off. So yes, celebrate Independence Day with a brand new PC. That's what I'm saying, man. What better way to celebrate the holiday than gaming, Yes. All right. So, yes, we are going to jump into Anna Glennon, but man, I want to, throw it out there into the universe. We are interviewing a ton of different people this year. Some of them are reoccurring guests like Anna. Yes. And we needed to follow because she has blown up in the past year. But man, if you guys have any guest suggestions, somebody we're almost 15 years in. I started this show in 2011. We got a massive audience. We've been on Sirius XM in the past, 200 AM FM networks, overseas U.S. American Forces Network, podcasts, when you name it, we've been there. We've accomplished it. And I've interviewed, everybody in racing, pro wrestlers, musicians, celebrities, actors, MMA fighters, pro ball players. You name it, we've had them on the show. But if there's anybody that you go, you know what, Jim's never interviewed this person, and I would love to hear Jim interview them, you know what? Let me know. Hit me up. Let me know, and I would love to get them on the show. Somebody fresh, somebody new, and I love my friends that have been on or reoccurring, but yeah, it's, if that's the case and there's somebody you would like me to have on the show, hit me up. I've got a pretty good knack for being able to get just about anybody on the show at this point in time. So, yeah. Love to try it out. That being said, you're probably seeing some of the gear that I'm wearing. I've slowly started sprinkling in on social media. Haven't formally announced it publicly. If you've been out to events like Run What You Brung or the Parker 400 races, you've been able to buy this stuff in person. But yes, you're seeing this. I'm knocking my microphone around. Misadventure Life. Yes, we've got our own apparel company now. I've obviously, you guys know me from my Misadventures and the GT Delivers Misadventure US Tour, my signature beer called Misadventure. Well, we got a whole clothing line now, and it's for people who live an active lifestyle. You live life off the beaten path. We've got everything from obviously clothing, hoodies, shirts, hats, and a lot of it's pretty unique, not your run-of-the-mill stuff. We've also got, soft-sided coolers, so you can bring your six-pack with you on the go, chapsticks, tumblers, you name it, we've got it. Yes, stay tuned. Yeah, I'm so tongue twisted, man. It's almost like the presidential debates yesterday or something like that. Holy crap. Yeah, stay tuned because once we drop that website, I'll give you listeners a pretty cool discount code. But man, more to come on the whole Misadventure Life apparel line. But yeah, I think you've heard me ramble enough. You guys want to get with Anna Glennon. I want to get Anna Glennon on the show. So we are going to take a short break here. And when we come back, we're going to have JetGirl Anna Glennon, one of the big winners of the E1 series. She's going to be right here on the General Tire Jim Beaver Show.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
Welcome to the General Tire Jim Beaver Show. And man, it's been a minute, but this is going to be a fun one. My good friend Anna Glennon, aka JetGirl, coming on the show. We did this an interview a little over a year ago, and man, life has changed for you drastically in like 12 months.
Big time.
Yeah, it's. I guess first off, are we recording from your new house, right?
Yes, actually, yes. My brand new house. It's really a giant garage with a house attached to it. That's kind of what I was going for. But yes, new house, like I think it's like 4 months. I've barely been in it because I've been traveling so much, but count it.
That's what I was gonna say. Like you get this new house, I see the post, I'm like, awesome. And then you've literally been out of the country for like months.
It's here though. It exists. Like,
everything's still in boxes.
Actually, no, I did pretty well at moving through everything. The garage is still in progress because I went from a place where I had like a washing machine for a workbench and now I have like a full space. And so I need to like build everything out. But no, the house is actually pretty dialed. I definitely I knew I was getting ready to leave the country. So I was like, let's get as much done as we can.
Oh man. So talking about leaving the country, we got a lot to talk about today. I didn't even write notes because I'm like, you and I are just going to wing it. Let's talk a little bit before we jump into everything. I mean, E1 series, because that's I guess the 10,000 pound gorilla in the room right now. First off, congratulations, because you're a winner in the E1 series. I mean, that's a global platform. You are a winner. That's, I mean, just making the cut to get signed to a team's a big deal, but actually walking away with a win, man, Anna, that's next level stuff.
Yeah, it's honestly been a dream. Like starting off, I was like, I'm just gonna do this, to have a cool experience and live out a childhood dream. And then it was like, uh-oh, like we have a shot. And then it was like, uh-oh, we might actually win. And then we got there and it was just like, it was overwhelming. Like, I can't believe that I'm here doing this. It's a blessing. Like it's overwhelming.
So you and I, because we messaged just off and on, but I know like back, I mean, you went through, it was like a trial program where they flew you over there, and I knew you and Sarah Price and some others. Like you went over there, you tested these boats, and I don't even, did you even get to drive them much during the original test session?
Yeah. So taking it back to like how it all got started, sometime early last year, the E1 series team actually reached out and they had sent me an email kind of not vaguely, but kind of describing this training academy that they had, but it wasn't clear, like, are you asking me to come over there and like talk about how cool it is, like online, like an influencer, or are you, looking for pilots or test drivers, what I didn't really understand, what they were asking me. So when they first sent it and they were like electric race boat and World Series and Tom Brady and Mark Anthony, I was like, this isn't real. Like I Googled it and there wasn't much information. I was like, this has to be spam. It can't be real. And so I ignored the first email and was just like, well, don't need to read that. And then like a couple weeks later, they emailed again with some more information. I was like, okay, this sounds a little bit more real. And then a friend of mine who was actually helping build one of the other teams was like, no, it's real. Like you should look into it. I think you would like it. I think you're a good fit for it. And I was like, man, like, well, now I got this busy schedule. I work full time at Con Media still. And it was like, my schedule was busy. I was racing jet skis. Like it was supposed to be like, kind of around the time of the World Championships. And so I email him back and I'm like, here's a couple dates that I might be available. And then I got busy and I didn't respond. And I just kept kicking the can down the road. And then Sarah had just come back from the training academy. And I think I had seen some posts of hers and was like, hey, like, what did you think? Is this like a real thing? Is this legit? And she was like, you should go. Even if you don't want a seat or don't think you can do it, just go and experience it. I think you're really going to like it. And so I kind of, sat on it a little bit longer. And then finally it gets to like October, and I reach out to them and I'm like, hey guys, like, I think I can make this work. Do you have any more time available? And they were like, we have like one more slot in the training academy, like the second to last slot or something like that was still open. And I was like, okay, book me a ticket. I'll go. This would have been the second time I'd ever been out of the country ever. And it was my first time going out of the country alone. So that was like a big thing for me. I had to like do all this research and I was like, oh my God, where am I going in Italy? I've never heard of this place before. So we go to Lake Maggiore in Italy. I think I flew into Milan to get there. And this place, we roll up like 5 a.m. the first morning. And it's like, there's like frost on the ground. And it is just like the quietest little place I've ever seen. And we go into this hangar and they open the door and there's this race bird. It was one of the like original training ones. So it was like bright green. And I look at this thing and I just like get this feeling that comes over me, like these tingles, like this is a big thing that I'm looking at right now. Like I could just get that like sense that like I like walked into something without realizing how big it was. Like originally I was like, I'm just going to go to Italy and drive a boat and have a good time and it'll be a cool experience and I can make some social content. And I walk in and look at this thing and I was like, this is a bigger deal than I thought it was. And they like let me sit in the cockpit and I'm looking at this like space age Formula One steering wheel. And I'm like, this is like some serious tech. Like, this is not just like, hey, like come out and be an influencer. This is real. And I'm touching it right now. And so I spent 2 days with a UIM instructor, which the UIM is like the FIA of the water. And so they trained me for 2 days on, racing theory and safety. A lot of things are similar to jet ski racing, but now you're in a boat. So we had these rib boats that we're like learning how to pass and like learning lines and learning different kinds of tracks and some safety stuff. And so we get through all of that. And then comes the dreaded immersion test, which honestly, I was kind of hoping that they would just forget about and I wouldn't have to do it. But we get there and all powerboat racing requires pilots to have an immersion test, which they have these like mock cockpits that they strap you in and then they flip you upside down and you have to escape underwater. And so I was hoping they would forget, but they were like, no, before you can get in the race bird, you have to do this. And so I was a little worried, but then I told myself, I was like, look, like I am not leaving this country without driving that race bird because I didn't come all the way here to chicken out. And so they strapped me into this cockpit and they tipped me over and I was like waiting for the panic and it just never came. I was like, I'm getting out of here. We're good. No problem. I actually got stuck in there for like almost 2 minutes because the Hans device like got hung up on the seat belts, but you have like an air tank. So I just like breathe a little air and then try and get loose and I make it out. So we're all green. I pass my test and I go out in the race bird the next morning. And as we're kind of like preparing again, like I get this sense of just like, this is so much bigger than I thought it was because like coming from jet ski racing, like growing up, it was just me and my dad in the garage. Like we made it all happen ourselves. Then I moved out of the house and it was me like sorting all of it, making the jet skis run, getting to the races. Just to take the race bird out for testing, like they had a boat full of engineers and software guys and mechanics and like instructors and all this stuff. And to me, it was just like, wow, like all of these people are here to just help me figure out how to drive this boat. And I got this sense of just like, not like performance anxiety, but I just like wanted to do well because it was like, look at all these people that invested their time so that this skinny Havasu water rat from Kansas can go test this boat out. And so we go out and they put me on an oval track with this race bird and it's a hydrofoil, never driven anything like it before. And honestly, it's totally counterintuitive from regular boats. And we go out and I got like 20 minutes, I think. And I felt like I picked it up pretty fast. And on the way back in from my test, I just got overwhelmed with this feeling of like, oh no, I really want to do this now. Like I came out here thinking like, let's just have some fun and drive a boat. And I literally like started to get emotional. I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever done. I've always wanted to be a boat racer. Like when I was a kid, Miami Vice, all that stuff was so cool to me. And now I'm sitting here with this opportunity kind of like looming. And I told myself like, oh, I'm not gonna get invested in it. I'm not gonna, no, now I have to have a seat. Like I want to go home with a seat. And so that was like the moment that I was like, I have to figure this out. And now we're here. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what was, I mean, so you go back and people have been testing for a couple of months, right? So you go back home, you have no assurances, anything. I mean, what happened when you got the call back or the email back?
So the way the academy worked was E1 would take all your data. So they have all these engineers, they have all these people that are like secretly spotting, you know, for other teams and stuff. And the E1 staff takes that information to all the teams as well. And then from there, those teams start making bids on people. Before I went to the boat, I had gotten 2 phone calls. Like as soon as like the ticket was booked, like I got 2 phone calls from teams that were interested. And I was like, well, like, I'm not really sure if I'm going to do this. Like, let me just go see the boat first and see if I even like it. And then before I was home, I got another call. And then about a week later, I was actually out at King of the Hammers and I got another phone call. And so I had like 4 different teams that were kind of interested. And, you know, that's based on the data that they saw. That's based on, you know, social media, all that stuff. They're just trying to find the best pilot for them. And I think I was kind of a sleeper in the sense that, like, I think a lot of other teams had already booked their pilots early on. And then I came in kind of at the end. And so I think there was, I don't want to say there was a scramble, but I think I was kind of a surprise. Like I said, like I avoided going until the last possible minute. And then my name got thrown in. And I was interested in a couple of the teams, but then I got a phone call from E1 and they were literally were like, would you be interested in a team Miami? And when I heard Miami, I was like, what's that? Miami? Like Miami Vice powerboats? What are we talking? So I get on a call with them, and before, like, they didn't mention Mark Anthony until we like got into the call. So like the team introduces themselves and they're like, oh, by the way, you know, this is Mark Anthony's team and he really wanted to be here, but he was like at a concert or something. And I was like, why didn't you say that earlier? Like, well, that seems like a really key piece of information. But I had a good call with them, and I kind of like took it home, thought about it, and just like the way that I had interacted with them and the fact that I, like, this whole thing was like childhood dream, right? You know, growing up watching powerboats, being a big boater with my dad, and just like thinking about how like I grew up watching Miami Vice. I was like, it's Miami, baby. And it was like America, like I wanted to represent USA. And so I went with it, but it was a gamble because like they didn't know me and I didn't know them. And we didn't really get to meet or get to know each other or anything until we got to the first race. So it was like, there was still a risk because, you know, it's not like, you know, first of all, I had never dealt with like team negotiations. Like this was my first time like being recruited for a team. And then on top of that, you know, it's not like Supercross or Formula One where like the teams are established, like, you know their history and you know what they're about and, you know, how much they've won or who's in charge or whatever. Like everything's new. Everything about E1 is totally new. So it was like, do I want to pick this team or that team? I have no idea who's better, you know? So it was a gamble coming into it. And when I arrived at Jeddah, they had one final training camp before the race, and there were 2 sessions. The first session, I arrived early because we were unsure which session I was going to be in. And the first session went, and I was like watching as all the other teams were, you know, getting to know each other and, you know, kind of like clicking up, you know, and I was like, oh man, like, am I going to get along with my team? Like, I have a teammate that I've never met. We have, you know, victory team and all these mechanics. Like, are we going to get along? And I kind of got a little FOMO because I was there by myself and I was like, man, like, come on guys, show up. And then they get there and it was just like magic. Like we all get along so well. Like we jokingly call each other the Miami Menaces, and that's like 100% it. Like we vibe, we are problem children, like, but we just want to go fast and drive the boat well. And looking, and not to say that the other teams are bad by any means, but like I feel like I landed in the perfect place. Like I'm so happy with where I landed. We have such a good time and we make it fast.
So what is, I mean, so you went through the training camp, you show up to Jeddah for round 1, and the last time you were in the boat previously was just your training session, correct?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I think some people, you know, every pilot had a different amount of training depending upon their availability. I know for sure that Eric and I had the least amount of time. Like Eric is this superstar power boater, and he like went to the testing and did like 5 minutes and he was just like, it's good, I can do it. Like I'm done. And he just leaves. So he probably had like 10 minutes in the boat and he was just done. And then I had 20 minutes in the boat. Most pilots got like 2 or 3 sessions. I got 1 just because of the time constraint. So we get to Jeddah and it's like, okay, now we gotta like scramble to make it happen. And Eric was busy with some family stuff, and he also races Formula One power boats. So he just didn't come to the training. So he shows up like at the very last day, and everybody was just like, who is this guy? He didn't come to training. He didn't come to testing. And he shows up, and we have a simulated race where we're like practicing the format. And he just walks out of everybody's lives. Like he had 10 minutes in the boat and was just like, see you guys later. And I was like, oh my God, like we're in a great spot. This is great. But yeah, so everybody kind of had different amounts of training. But in Jeddah, we each had, I think, 4 days where we finished the testing or the training. And a lot of that was getting 4 race birds on the track at the same time, understanding how the race format works, getting a feel for, how they handle when we're side by side. And then also getting a feel for what race day looks like, because there's live TV and things like that. So a lot of that, which is crazy, was all done for the first time, like days before the race, and E1 pulled it off, which is incredible. But yeah, it was all very like, everybody was kind of in the same boat. Like there were no pilots that had like a real clear advantage. Like even E1, it was like, we were all in it together for the first time, which is crazy to think about.
It's wild. So driving the race birds. So I've been watching a lot of the videos, stuff like that. A lot of like, especially like the last round, I mean, it's pretty rough. And I start looking at that. I'm looking at the chop and like the way they're handling in the water. I'm like, some of it reminds me of a jet ski race. I mean, some of the water gets rugged. So I mean, is there similarities? Is there things you've been able, because obviously you know how to read the water really well from jet ski racing. Is there things that have,
I don't know.
I would hope so at this point, but I mean, has there been crossover that you've been able to take from that and apply it to racing E1?
I think yes and no. I think some of the like natural like feeling and sensation of being in the water and like having reactions to what the water is doing, I think that is useful to me, but the racebird really doesn't handle like anything else. Like I think the biggest thing for me that helps me from jet skiing is that because I'm this little midget that weighs 90 pounds on this giant jet ski that weighs 700 pounds, I really had to learn how to kind of harmonize with the boat, because I don't physically have the ability to muscle the thing around and like tell it what to do. Like I have to, anticipate what it's doing and give it what it needs and kind of work with it. Otherwise, I just get the crap beat out of myself and I don't go very fast. So with the racebird, there's a similar concept there where you have to kind of feel what it's doing and give it what it needs to stay on the foil. It's not anything like literally like driving the jet ski, but that concept is the same. And that's something I'm really familiar with because like I said, I struggled for years trying to force jet skis to drive the way that I wanted. And that didn't work for me because I was little and the jet ski didn't even know that I was there. And so later on when I got better, it was because I had learned how to work around it and work with it. And that's what the racebird needs. Like personally, I think that the foundation is there for it, considering it's brand new and never existed before. I think that the foundation is there, but you have to understand what it needs and be able to drive with it and not try to force it or overdrive it. The trickiest thing is just that there's no like baseline. Like every time you're in different conditions, what settings it wants or what it needs or how it handles changes drastically. And I think that's part of why we did well in Puerto Banús was that we were quick to adapt, coming from watercraft racing. Like in the morning, it's flat. In the afternoon, it could be rough. In the evening, it could be really windy. Like that's the beauty, I think, of racing on the water is like, in track racing, you might get some rain or wind, but, the track mostly stays the same. Whereas like on the water, like every 5 minutes, it's different. When we were in Puerto Banús, like my race was like 10-foot waves. And then the next race was a little bit flatter. It's being able to just adapt and pivot and just power through it was really important. And I think kind of the mindset of just being used to that was our advantage more so than, this drives like a jet ski or it drives like a boat, because it really doesn't drive like anything. You just have to be able to work with it and be flexible, really.
Yeah. So, I know you'd mentioned, we're talking about riding jet skis. I saw kind of your post when you got home and you're back on the ski. Just recently did a race. Does that feel good? Because that's like, I mean, that's been a huge part of your life for so long. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going boat racing by jet ski. And it's like, it had to feel good getting back on the ski.
Absolutely. I think in the last 2 years, maybe, that my program with the jet ski has gotten more, I don't want to say recreational, but like I've stopped being so like wound up and serious about jet ski racing and like worrying about it. And now it's more fun. And ironically enough, I've done a lot better in the results from that. Just like I'm just here to ride my jet ski, go fast, have a good time, and go home. And I've been winning on that program, which is really cool. And for me, the boat racing thing is something that like I just couldn't turn up because again, that's like part of a childhood dream. The jet ski for me is something that like is like a necessary part of my life. Like even if I were to stop racing, like I would still have jet skis, ride jet skis, race jet skis, just because it's really important for like my mental health and just like the balance of my life. But yeah, it's been cool. Like I don't have any intention of like stepping away from racing, but it's been kind of fun. Like we had a E1 testing event in Italy in like April, and there was a jet ski race like at the end of that week. And I just jokingly was like, I'm going to show up to that race straight off the plane and see what we can do. And like, it was like a red eye, like sleeping on the floor at the airport. I like landed in Vegas at like midnight, drove all the way home, packed everything up. Next morning, showed up to the jet ski race and we won. And it was just like, I was like, oh, I'm just going to see if I can do this. And it was like, and I took the whole shot and I was like, oh no, like now I got to try. Like,
I'm committed. I'm committed.
Exactly. Like I'm in too deep. But no, that's been fun. I did that again right after Spain. There was a jet ski race the following weekend. And again, it was like, I'm just going to, like, I haven't ridden my jet ski much. Like, we're just going to show up and have fun. Same thing, whole shot. Yeah, I guess I got to push now. But yeah, jet skiing is always going to be a big part of my life. And honestly, the jet skiing is the reason why I'm racing the boat. The work that I've done on it with that and the JetGirl brand is why I'm here. But yeah, it's for me, making jet skiing fun again was really, really important for me. And now I feel that way. And I've got the dog and he loves to ride the jet ski with me. So, it's not something that's ever going to go away. But, putting it back into like the fun part of my life was really important because if it's not fun, then why am I doing it?
I understand that. Just it's like this year specifically kind of stepped away from racing, not on purpose, just a lot of my partners wanted other things, more content and stuff like that. So I'm spending more time, well, even on jet skis, but in UTVs and in the Bronco and just going out, trail riding, experience stuff I've never done. I'm having so much fun doing it. And it's like, I realize like, oh, this is why you've done this for the last 15, 20 years. It's fun, but it's like you get so ingrained, like I got to go in. It's all performance driven. And it's like, you lose sight of why you do it, and I think that I've got that back now. I'm still itching to go race, but it's like, I think I'm gonna have a different mindset when I go back and race, because it's just, I've brought the fun back to it. So I completely understand where you're at.
Yeah, mindset is so big, especially for me in the last couple of years, like just straightening out the mindset of like not getting so strung out over it, not getting nervous, just like rolling up and just understanding that like every time you get on the jet ski or in the boat or in the car, like everything resets to zero. Everybody has a shot, anything can happen. And just like doing whatever you can do in that moment, like stressing about it the whole week leading up means nothing. Like that's not going to change anything that happens. If anything, it's going to make it worse because you're stressed out and you're not focused, So that's one of the things that I love about Miami is that like our team vibes are incredible. Like we don't care about anybody else's business. We do our own thing. We're having a good time. We just get in the boat and work together. And I think that that's one of the best things about us is like, no offense to the other teams, but they're all like very like hyper professional Formula One, like all like lip sealed, like no homies at the racetrack kind of energy. And we're absolute menaces. Like I think sometimes they look at us and they're just like, oh my God, these Miami people. But we're just like hanging out, playing music, dancing around, having a good time. And then that good energy like translates into the boat because it's like, we work together really well and we just make it happen. And we're having fun while we're doing it. Because realistically, like the racing is really important. Don't get me wrong. Like we want to win. But we're here on this platform with all these celebrities and superstars with like a much bigger mission here. And that's what's cool about E1 is like E1's whole thing is first of all, we're testing technology that didn't exist a year ago in an effort to push this hydrofoil technology and to test the electric technology. Like, a lot of people look at the boats and they're like, why does this exist? And, doesn't it have issues? That's the thing, is like, we are the test drivers. Like, this is R&D at its highest. We have all of these pilots from all kinds of backgrounds that are pushing this to the limit to test it for Mercury, for E1, and we're essentially developing that technology and finding, what it needs and where the limit is. And then on top of that, we're raising awareness for just taking care of the water, which, as someone that spent my whole life in the water before E1, I was not paying enough attention to it. Like, I'm not usually like a very like granola, like save the planet type of person, but like the water is really important to me. And a lot of times I don't realize that we're not taking very good care of it. And E1 like brought up a lot of good points. Like, even like the buoys at E1 are my favorite thing ever. And a lot of people don't realize this, but every buoy is powered by a little tiny electric motor, and there's no chain and there's no anchor. So there's nothing like dragging around on the sea floor, like stirring stuff up and like breaking things down there. Yeah. And it never occurred to me that, like, when we throw buoys out for jet ski racing, that's happening, because I'm just riding my jet ski and having a good time. So like the fact that E1 has like taken all of that into account. So like when we go to a race, it's like the highest form of like pack it in, pack it out. Like we're not leaving anything behind. I think that's really cool, because I want to keep racing jet skis. I want to keep seeing class 1 power boats shredding in the ocean. And if we keep just kind of like not taking care of things when we leave, governments and, local cities and stuff aren't going to want us to come back if we tear everything up and then leave. So for someone like E1 to come in and go to somewhere like Venice in the Grand Canal and be able to put boats in there is awesome. Like, it's not like we're trying to replace class 1 power boats, because that's not going to happen. But what we are trying to do is make it so that Florida and Venice and all these places don't throw a fit when we ask if we can come race on the water. It's all about balance. So I'm all about that, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Florida, and I got to ask. I know this year, obviously, it's a global series, but how exciting is it for you to, at some point in the future, possibly have an American round?
Oh, let me tell you, it's coming. They're working really hard. As far as I've heard with whispers, the upcoming calendar is going to be crazy. This year, for them to pull out places like Venice and Monaco and Jeddah in the first season, with like, they like went to these cities with almost nothing to back it up. They're like, hey, trust us, this is going to be really cool, is crazy. So, now that we have all of this on the board of how cool it is, the next season is going to be insane. I think it's going to be more cities, more flash. They definitely are trying to come to America. We might be working on some things in the hometown. Can't promise anything, but yeah, no, to race at home is going to be huge for me. To race abroad's been really cool. As an American, to do that is like, to represent the country on the world stage is cool. I've never got to do that. So like, to be able to do that is a dream come true, but then to bring it home and then hopefully like respectfully put all my European friends in their place on American soil, like I would love to do that. So yeah. And I hope that it's something that, friends can come out to. My family has never, I'm one of the only people in my family to go abroad. So, to have family close by would be awesome. And, see some jet ski and off-road and automotive friends at the races would be rad. And it's really cool in person, like seeing 4 of them side by side battling, and E1 has this whole like show, they have this acceleration festival, and it's just like very well thought out. They put a lot of time into it. And these guys also run like Formula E and Extreme E. So like, they're not playing around, like they know what they're doing. So to be a part of that show is really cool, because a lot of jet ski racing is pretty low key. So for me, like, this is a huge deal. Like, I feel so silly when I'm at these races, because like, I feel like a kid in a candy store, and a lot of the other pilots like come from, crazy big motorsports, and they're like, this is normal. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, my first champagne spray, like I'm like crying. I'm like, this is the best day of my life. And they're like, we've done this 1,000 times. I'm like, no, like, let me have my moment. This is awesome.
No, and I think that's kind of awesome to put it in context because like I understand what it's like at jet ski races. I understand what it's like at a lot of the events I go to, and it's like so all of a sudden, to put it into perspective, it's crazy because it's all of a sudden you're like, pinch me, is this real? Like, and people are
Exactly.
here to watch me. Like, what?
Yeah, it's for me, like I think that's the other thing too, is like I feel like such a dork when I'm at the races. Like I'm in the garage, like thanking the mechanics and like, can I help? Like I actually got in trouble in Jeddah because one of the screws on my helmet was loose and I got into the toolbox to fix it. And Eric came to me and he's like, get out of the toolbox. What are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm trying to help. And he's like, no, no, no. Would you let the mechanic get in the boat and drive it? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, then let them do their job. And like the mechanics are really happy to do these things. And so for me, it's like I'm so used to doing everything myself and like not having this like group of people that's like ready to help and they actually want to help. So like I get so excited because it's like I know that they're not there for me, but like this experience is just unlike anything ever because I'm so used to just like grind, like even at the race that I just mentioned, like I rocked my pump on the starting line like a rookie, destroyed my pump and propeller, and I was like, oh, I gotta go home. Like I had to pack all my crap up by myself, go all the way home, pull the pump, change the propeller, come out, and it was all me by myself. Next day, come out and try again. Here, it's like there's this whole team that genuinely wants to work together to do well, and like they're on the dock cheering, and they're in the radio, helping me out, and it's unlike anything I've ever done. And a lot of the other pilots are used to that, and I'm not. So it's like every little moment, I'm just like living, breathing, cherishing it, and it's just like I think I'm a little over the top in my excitement, but I can't help it because this is literally like a dream.
Yeah, it's when you ask the guys, hey, I got a spare bedroom now. Do you guys want to come to the jet ski races and help out?
And so we work with Victory Team, and they have been in water sports for like decades. They have had jet ski racing teams in the past. So like I think about them all the time when I'm at the races. I'm like, oh man, like if Merv was here, if Ahmed was here, like they'd tell me to get out of the tool. They'd be mad at me for doing it this way, like they're into it. But it's cool because they have that background, and to work with them is a huge honor because it's like they've done class one, they've done XCAT, they've done jet skis, but like this is new to them, but they still like they get it.
That's awesome. So I guess I mean, man, I still got so many questions, but this one goes back. There was a segue earlier. I totally missed it. But you were talking about, all the travel and everything. One thing I've noticed, especially in the last year on social media, and a lot of it probably ties in with the E1 travel. People have no idea how tough it is on your body, but I know you've hit the gym like triple hard. You're pretty shredded at this point. Do you think that's been a big benefit to everything you're doing in E1 too?
Yeah, for sure. I think any kind of, gym is going to be good for you at the end of the day. But sometime last year, we had like the first race of the season. And I just struggled. Like I was really struggling with back pain like my entire life. I'm not even sure where it came from. I've had some accidents and injuries from jet ski racing, but like it just got to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this if I feel this way. Like I couldn't even sit at my desk. Like it was just miserable. And so I was like, man, like maybe I should talk to somebody that knows better than me. Because I was working out, but I was just like winging it. Like I was like, I think this is helping. I don't really know. It seems like it. So I reached out to this guy. His name's Jeff. He lives here in Havasu. And I was like, hey, like I need some help. Like he was training like volleyball, wrestling, football kids. And I'm roughly the size of a high schooler. So it made sense. So I reach out to this guy and I start going to see him like twice a week. And he watches what I'm doing and he's like you have a hamstring problem. I was like, hamstring? I was like, my back hurts, not my hamstrings. He's like, no, trust me, it's your hamstrings. And so we start working on like very specific things. And like, I think 2 months in, no more pain. Like I had struggled with this pain for like 2 or 3 years. And it was like so debilitating and frustrating. And he comes in and he like takes one look at me and he's like, yeah, that's your problem. I was like, man, like I should have talked to this guy ages ago. But yeah, I work with him several times a week. He also helps build programs for me when I'm traveling. But we're just focused on like functional muscle. Like for my entire life, I've been super frail. Like a lot of people look at me and they think eating disorder. No, I have no problem. Love cheeseburgers, French fries, pizza all day. But I've just always been skinny and frail and just like not holding weight. So most of my jet ski career, I was not over like 90 pounds. When I moved to Havasu and started riding every day, I gained about 10 pounds. So when I went to this guy, I was like just under 100 pounds. And so he just started working with me on strength. Like, we're not really doing anything crazy or groundbreaking, but it's just a very dedicated program. He keeps an eye on me, makes sure that I'm like keeping up on all of it. And overall, my general health is just like on the up. Like, I don't feel like doo-doo anymore. Like, I can lift the jet ski gas cans. Like, I can move the jet skis around a lot easier. Like, it's all been very practical. I can feel it on the jet ski, you know, just being stronger, having more endurance, like having less fade. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and get jacked. Like, I think a lot of the like shredded look that you see is just because I'm skinny. Like, there's nowhere else for the muscle to go. But it's been a huge improvement. And then transferring over to the boats, I think I was already in a good place. Like, compared to the jet ski, I don't think the boat is as physically demanding, because you're not just getting slammed around as much as you do on the jet ski, and you're not like, you know, leaning into it and powering through it. Like, it still beats you up, but I just don't think it's as demanding as the jet ski. So like, honestly, other than it being really hot sometimes, I think that like I could give me 20 more laps. Like, let's keep going. Like, yeah. Eric races Formula One power boats and they're doing like 60 laps. Like, I'd love to see us do 60 laps in the E1 Racebird. But yeah, it's been a big part of my program. And, you know, I was never really like a fitness gal, fitness influencer, but just to be able to like share that story of like being really frail and struggling with just being tiny my whole life, and then finally seeing results has been cool. Because I mean, there's other people that struggle with that, you know, and I think that health is really important. Like, I work out so that I can continue to eat pizza. Like, my friends and I have this motto, live fast, eat trash, and we mean it. We live by it. So it's like, I'm not really like a fitness influencer, but I'm someone that like, I want to be healthy enough to keep doing the things that I love to do. So it's just part of it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, how's the food been? Because you know, for a girl that hasn't left the States ever, like now all of a sudden you're trying, you know, Spain, Italy, the Middle East. Like, how's the food been?
I try to tell myself, like you said, I'm from the States, and my food choices for most of my life has been like chicken tenders, pizza, French fries. And I'm trying to expand my horizons and get some culture. So when I go out to these places, like, you know, when we go out as a group, like, I try not to turn anything down. Like, if it's in front of me, like, I'll give it a taste and see if it's good. So I've learned a lot. But I will say, I still go to McDonald's in every country because it's different. It's actually really disappointing how much better McDonald's is in countries other than America. They will have like an expanded menu and all this like extra stuff that you've never heard of, and it's all delicious. They have McFlurries that I've never heard of. But no, it's been a cool experience to travel abroad, and I try to like take in as much of it as I can, even if it's just like wandering around and seeing the sights, and, you know, going out with folks from the team and just living it. Because a lot of times it's like you get so focused on the racing that you forget about the experience. And so like, as much as I love the racing and want to win, like, I want to, again, just like experience all of this to the fullest, share it with everybody on the internet in 20 million Instagram stories that they have to click through. But it's important to me because like, who gets this opportunity? I'm not a skinny kid from Kansas. Like, this is like, oh, you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, kind of stuff, you know? So I want to make the most of it every time.
We need shirts made. We're not in Kansas anymore, Anna.
I've heard that so many times in my lifetime, and this is the only acceptable news is this adventure. Like, I'll take it.
So I want to honestly go back like a year, right around last time we did, but I know like you and I had talked about it. It was a big decision. You talked about your family, but let's talk a little bit about like OnlyFans, because I think like you talked about the house and everything that you've got going for you. And a lot of that ties into that. Like, you and I talked, you're like, look, I'm just developing content like I do for Instagram. I'm not changing who I am. But talk about that relationship, because they've stood behind you and they've opened up a lot of doors. Like you said, I mean, I think you put a post out, I wouldn't have this house today if it wasn't for that relationship.
Yeah, OnlyFans has been one of the coolest things I've ever done. Like, as you can imagine, when they approached me, I definitely like wrestled with that. Like, I come from Kansas, like very modest conservative family. Like, OnlyFans was not something that I wanted to be involved with initially. But it, you know, the more I talked to them, you know, their whole reason for reaching out to me was that they want people to understand that OnlyFans is not just for what you think it's for. they have a lot of people on the platform that are using it for things that are not, what do they say, not suitable for work, not appropriate for work. And, that's the thing about OnlyFans is you can post whatever you want. They don't try and, shadow ban you or hide your content, or they don't control any of that. It's very like free speech, do what you feel like. And that's why there is a lot of that content on there, but it's open to everybody else. They had a lot of motorsports athletes on there already. They work with Josh Heron. They work with Mrs. Swoop, who does drag racing. Lots of European motorsports athletes, mountain bikers, like all kinds of people. So their goal with this program was, one, to give a slice of the help to motorsports, which, as you know, like the slice of pie for motorsports keeps getting smaller and smaller in the advertising world as far as sponsorship budget and help. It's just getting smaller. And then on top of that, they want those athletes to go out and explain to their fan base that, you can use OnlyFans for whatever you want. And for me, that was sharing jet ski content. And so when they originally approached me, we had a lot of meetings, and the more I talked to them, I was like, I like these people. Like, I like what they're doing. I like what they're about. Their platform, the first time I actually logged into OnlyFans, I was like, wow, like this has a lot of features that I like. It's easy to use. It's easy to connect with people directly or in mass. Like, honestly, a lot of the features were better than what I was dealing with Instagram and Facebook that I built my whole life around. And I was like, man, like these guys deserve a better rep because this platform actually works really well. Despite the fact that, a lot of the other platforms try and keep OnlyFans just like completely out. Like, Instagram doesn't like when you post about it. Facebook doesn't like when you post about it. So they've really built a great platform despite that. And so, we get to talking. The support that they offered me was huge for me. And then they also were really open about like, we don't care if you say like I always like to say, like, you won't find any chocolate starfishes or whatever on my platform. And they're like, do that. Like, say whatever you want. Like, that's what OnlyFans is all about. Like, we're not going to tell you what to say. So they were great. Like, their support was huge. Connecting with the other athletes that they work with has been huge. Like, it's like a little family of us, working together to push this message. And yeah, so initially when I first launched it, I was really happy. The reception was, I was worried that people were going to be like, oh, we lost her. Can't follow her anymore. This is bad. But, I come from a PR background, so I spent a lot of time thinking about how to present it. I really like packaged it in a way to like explain to people that like, I'm not changing who I am. This is an opportunity, not only for me, but for the sport, because OnlyFans is going to start talking about jet skis now, which huge platform, OnlyFans. So I presented it. It actually went over a lot better than I expected with the fan base. Like, everybody's so supportive all the time. So that was really exciting. And then, the cool thing about OnlyFans is that you do have the opportunity to post content, behind a paywall. Most of my content, I don't put a paywall up on it because I don't need to make any extra money off the fans. It's not really something that I need or want to do. But I started working with the local animal shelter, and I was like, this might be a cool way to use this paywall feature. So I've always had the dream to do like the 80s bikini photo shoot, like in the old like jet ski magazine. So I got my vintage 440 and we did this cool like pinup shoot, and I put it behind the paywall, and it was like $50 and you get like this calendar for your phone, and all of that money went to the shelter. And it was crazy how quickly money started coming in for the shelter. Like, I think I raised like $2,000 in like 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to the PetSmart, and like, we like loaded my buddy's truck down to where it was like sagging. Like, we had like, I think we had 400 pounds of dog food. We had kitty food, we had toys, we had blankies, we had all this stuff. And it was like, it was so cool to see everybody just like get together like that, and to see how the OnlyFans platform made that so easy. Like, it wasn't like a GoFundMe where I had to like jump through a bunch of hoops. Like, the money went in, I got the money, I went and bought the food. Like, it was awesome. So to see it get used that way for me was cool. But yeah, it's been really wonderful. OnlyFans has done a lot for me. The fans have been cool. I do a lot of live streams, which I didn't do before. I call them like the monthly debrief, and I run it like a press conference. And then the other thing that's cool is they have a much easier way to connect, like through messages. So I can send out updates to people, this is how the race weekend went. How are you doing? Like, what's going on? And it's just been easier for me to connect with the fans that are really into it. Whereas like Instagram, it's like, sometimes I don't even see people's messages because they go to these weird folders, and like, there's all these bots, and like, yeah, it's just not been great. And so OnlyFans is really consistent. And the thing about OnlyFans is it's for the fans. Like, that's the entire point, is to make it easier for creators to connect with their fans. Whereas like Instagram and Facebook and Meta, it's like, Meta just wants to be in control of everything, so they make it really difficult. So OnlyFans has been awesome. It was definitely a gamble deciding to do that, but working with them was game changing, big support for me and my program. Yes, definitely a huge contributor to me being able to buy a house. And then the being able to support the shelter like that was really cool too. So again, just like always trying to make the most of an experience. Like if I'm going to work with OnlyFans, it's going to be in the best way possible. And it's been great. They're wonderful. And we're already talking about going big for next year. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. So all this is going on. You still have the day job, right?
Yeah.
So how has that been working? Because you and I actually work on that front quite a bit together. How has that been? Because I mean, here you are jet setting across the world and you're still like, oh, I better log in and check an email.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, like, I was like, man, like, I feel a little fried today. And they were like, really? Like, you're basically working 3 full-time jobs and you're tired? Like, that's crazy. Like, it didn't dawn on me, that I'm running 2 race careers and then also working full-time. But yeah, no, I still work at Con Media. I love it there. It's definitely like the dream job that I grinded for, growing up. So it's been a joy to work with them. We just came out of some really cool stuff at Hammers, King of the Hammers. I've been working really closely with Optima Batteries, huge brand, really cool people. We're getting ready to go to Pikes Peak like next week. And I'm really fortunate, Con Media is full of enthusiasts like us where, we love power sports and cars and hot rods. The president, Dan Kahn, actually race boats with his dad. So when I came to them with this E1 thing, I was like, here we go. Like, this is going to go horribly. There's no way that this is going to work out. And they were wonderful. They're super into it. There's definitely a level of trust there where it's like, I have to get my job done. It's still really critical that I make sure that all our clients are happy and I work my ass off for that, because both of these things mean so much to me, racing an E1, but also this dream job that I've grinded for. So I'm really, really proud to work there, and I get to do a lot of cool stuff and work with a lot of cool people. So, I'll be checking. I've definitely in Jeddah, I was taking phone calls at 1:00 in the morning, and like, it'd be funny because I'd join in and they'd be like, oh, Anna, like, what time is it there? And I'd be like, oh, it's 1:00 in the morning, but I'm here. So yeah, I already work remote in Havasu. So it's like, can I work remote from anywhere? You bet your ass. Like, I'm going to work my butt off. Yeah, it's been great. I'm really thankful to work there, and we get to do so many cool things there. So, it's definitely a lot to juggle, but at the end of the day, like, just knowing that I'm finally at the place where I always wanted to be, like, just helps me power through it.
It's funny because I've said this, and you and I, there's so many similarities. It's like my company, we run marketing for 2 different companies. I'm an agent for an athlete. And then I've got my entire career, like with racing and influencers, social media, podcasting. And it's like, I literally, like you, 3, 4, 5 full-time jobs. What hat am I wearing at any given minute? And it's like, people go, how do you make a living in motorsport? And I'm like, there's a lot of us doing it. I'm like, but you can't just be a professional jet ski racer anymore.
Yes.
Or, well, there's very few times where you actually could, but same with an off-road racer. Like, you can't really just be an off-road racer. You have to wear like 3 or 4 hats. I call it having a no job. Like, do I have a job? No. Well, yes, but I've got like 5 of them. I'm like, I don't know, but it's like, I'm like, but I also have a lot of flexibility. I have 5 different jobs, but it's so much better than going at a cubicle for, 40 hours a week or something,
Yeah, I definitely get the classic, like, daddy's money comment a lot. And I always think that that's so ironic because, like, God bless my old man, but he never gave me a handout. He was like, you're going to learn how to pay for your own crap. And like, that was always his MO. So like, to be here is like the jet skiing now pays for itself through all the partnerships and all the hard work and everything. And now we have the job that finally is awesome and doesn't suck. And now we have the boats, which are also an awesome opportunity. It's like, there's no daddy's money here anymore. Like, I have to do all of this stuff myself, and I'm really proud of it. But it's like, there are some people out there that are running the daddy's money racing program, and I get it. That's fine. Do your thing. But like, just as well as I do, that it's like when you're racing the jet ski or the car or whatever it is, like, it becomes a job, even though it's supposed to be the hobby. Like, this job pays for this job, which pays for that job. And then we get to do all the cool things that we want to do. But it's a lot to juggle, but we juggle it for the sake of loving it. Like, we made it,
Well, it's like I tell people you've got to be like a walking marketing company. And it's like I see JetGirl and whatever, it's like you're a walking marketing company. What hat am I wearing on any given day? Like, I know how to promote over here and over there. And it's like I feel like if you want to make it, you literally just have to be a walking marketing company. I get so many people tell me, "Oh, I wish I could just go race." And I'm like, me too. Like, me too. But
when I first came into E1, there was like some little gossip amongst people that I won't name names, that some of the people there are just like Instagram drivers, like some of them got picked for social media, and whether or not that's true, I don't know. I could see how at a glance you might think that I am an Instagram driver. Like I do the marketing shtick. I love it. I can turn it on. But at the end of the day, I was like, when I started, I didn't know if I was going to be a good pilot, right? Nobody knew if they were going to be a good pilot. So I came into it and I was like, I'm going to be the most marketable, like, yes, man, like, you need a commercial, I'm in, you need a video, I'll do it, like, no problem. But then it was like, I also want to be a good pilot at the same time. So this has been a cool opportunity because I have the opportunity to do both. At first I was like, I really want this seat, so I'm going to make sure that I'm the most marketable person here. And now it's like, well, now I can actually drive the boat pretty good. So to have the opportunity to do both was awesome because I was really self-conscious at first. I was like, what if I am just an Instagram driver? Like, what if I am bad at this? And this poor team sent me out here to Saudi Arabia, and they're like, well, this girl's a dud. Now we're stuck with her. So it's been cool to be able to do both, but I get that all the time, like, oh, she's always on her phone. Yeah, I'm always on my phone trying to make money so I can go racing. Like, that's the life.
Yeah. Well, so, that being said, you getting that win had to feel really good because any of the naysayers, it kind of shut them up in a way, because it's like, she's not just an Instagram driver. She just won. Okay. She's real.
Yeah. That was honestly the week in Puerto Banús was one of the best weeks of my life, like just the experience as a whole, the people that were there, the memories that I have there. But that win meant so much to me because, like I said, like I have never had my champagne spray alongside a team of people that we all worked together to get through it. And it was a hard weekend for us because in quali, our throttle sensor was broken and we qualified 6th, and we were looking at the numbers and we were like, oh my God, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we so far behind? This makes no sense. And after, they tell us that the throttle sensor was broken. So we had this like really low, and then we were like, well, that's why it broke. And then I went out for my semi and the boat shut off. And we were like, great, this is not getting any better. And then we made it to the final, and the final went best case scenario. So we went from like, we're having the worst weekend ever to we're having the best weekend ever. And then on top of that, again, like first time celebrating with a team of people that I care so much about. It just all came together and it was so overwhelming. I tell you, I was on the podium. There's like a very specific moment on the podium where I just like cracked. Like they were playing the anthem and I started like taking it in where I was like, I'm out here by myself. I'm in Spain. I'm racing powerboats, electric ones that were just invented in like the last year. Crazy. And to be completely honest with you, I think we might have had this conversation before. When I was younger, I was so miserable, bullied all the time, terrible time before jet ski racing was a part of my life, that I genuinely had a moment where I was like, I think I'd be better off if I just wasn't on this planet anymore. It's hard to think about, but that was the reality. Was I was so miserable and alone that I thought that was best. I didn't have a miserable childhood. I had a miserable school career just with people that were terrible people. And so I was standing on that podium and I was like, I am so glad that I'm alive right now to experience this, because I almost wasn't. And that was like it. I was like, I've worked so hard to get to this point and we're here and we get to enjoy this moment with all these people that I care about. Like my whole family worked really hard to get me through that time, to get me through jet ski racing, to get me through school. Like all of that led to this point. And I finally got to like have that moment. And it was so cool. So then there's all those videos of me crying, and that was it. It wasn't even that we won. It was that like I was like just experiencing like the culmination of like years and years and years of just like working my butt off, getting beat down by the world and all these people that were like, yeah, you should quit. So it was awesome. Like, yes, I wanted to win, but just to have that moment and be like, it was all worth it. Sticking around, working hard, so worth it right in that moment.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was the realness of it, because I know they shared a ton of videos and things like that of that moment. But it like, to me, it humanized you. You know what I mean? Because, you know, and people, especially, you know, people overseas, stuff like that, might not be familiar, but they saw the passion, they saw, you know, the emotion of it. And I think it, you know, I think it told a story and people get attracted to that. You know, it's, you're not, you know, you're not just some statue, you know what I mean? You're a real person. And I think I do. Speaking of that, I was going to say you're not Iceman, but then I started laughing. I can't say that because I love the promos that they put out though, you know, but I just started laughing. I'm like,
yeah,
no,
Eric, our dynamic is really interesting because Eric is always like very cool, calm and collected. Like he has jokes, don't get me wrong, really funny guy, but he's Iceman. Like when he goes in the boat, he's just like ice on, like kill or be killed. Like he's an animal. And then there's me, and I'm like jumping around like a rabbit, like all like spazzed out on all this candy that I bring with me, and I'm just like high on this entire experience. So we have this really interesting dynamic. Don't get me wrong, like game face on game day at game time, but like the better mood I'm in, like the better I'm gonna drive because I'm just like I'm ready to go. But yeah, you'll see on the podium celebration, I was like the only one in all the pictures, and that's because Eric like did the champagne and then was like, okay guys, bye, like I'm going to the VIP club to hang out with my family, and he just like dipped, and I was still there just like reveling in all of it, you know. So yeah, interesting dynamic. I'm not the ice queen, like that's not my thing, but yeah, I think a lot of people look at me and they're like, this girl's crazy, like, you know, she's a little out of her mind. But honestly, it's like you said, like I'm just so passionate about all of it and so thankful to be a part of it that I literally cannot contain it. Like it just like bubbles out of me, and I just, if anybody's around, like if I'm like crying or laughing or whatever, like it's just excitement. Like a lot of times it's not like I'm crying because I'm a crybaby. It's like I'm just so stoked to be there that I cannot contain it.
So you're actually home for a little bit. You were saying, you text me, you're like, I'm actually home. I'm like, but didn't you tell me you're going to Pikes Peak?
Yeah, it's funny because I was like looking at the E1 schedule. I'm technically home, but then I was like, oh, I have to go to Pikes Peak next week. So yeah, I'm going to Pikes Peak next week with Con Media and Optima Batteries. We're gonna do some cool stuff up there. And then I think I have a little bit of time to breathe before E1 in Monaco. So I've been like grinding out projects at home, working on jet skis, like installing shelves, like living the dream, man.
Well, I know Gomez, I dropped my jet ski, my stand-up off at Gomez's yesterday, and he's doing a bunch of work to it, gonna get it back. And he goes, we got to go do like a Wednesday night cove run or something. So hopefully about the time I get it back, you're back, and maybe we can all just go on a cool cove run in Havasu or something.
It's not like, this is the life we live. It's like, oh, you're out of town and I'm out of town, and maybe we'll see each other. Like there's been so many times where like I get people that
30
I know
minutes apart, and how often do we see each other? Like literally
once a year. This guy was at Poker Run, the big jet ski poker run. These guys were all there like, oh, are you in town? I'm like, oh no, I'm in Spain. I felt bad. All my friends went, and they were just like, man, be a whole lot cooler if you were here, but you had to go race dumb boats. And I was like, man, guys, like I wish I was there, but this is kind of important.
So I'm the lame-o that like I love that event. I didn't even take my jet ski this year because now I've got this apparel company I started and I'm slinging shirts. So it's like, I'm the guy that goes, oh, I love this event so much, I'm going to be a sponsor of it, and we're not going to have any fun at all. Well, it was a blast, but I'm just like, yeah, that's my life too. But that's I laughed because it was like,
we come into it with good intentions, and then we booby trap ourselves into doing more work.
Oh, that's it. Oh, no, it's like I laugh because I'm like, oh, everybody's like, how's your June? I'm like, yeah, I'm at home. And then I'm like, oh, I was in Colorado for a week. I'm here for a few days, go to Alabama, then I go to Crandon, back here, then I go to Minnesota for a week, and I'm back here for a couple of days, and I go to San Diego for a week. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not at home. I am like, me 2 weeks out of the month at home is at home. That's weird.
the last month I think was the most brutal because E1 had 3 events like practically back to back. Like we had a testing event in Italy, and then there was like maybe a week and a half in between that event and the Venice race. So it's like I flew out to testing, and for whatever reason the jet lag for that one just knocked me down, man. Like they have pictures of me laying on the floor underneath the table in the garage, like with like someone from Team Brazil was nice enough to bring me like a mechanic mat that was really soft. And so like, I'm like all bundled up in my race suit and my life jacket laying on the floor. And they were all taking pictures of me and making fun of me. And they'd be like, okay, Anna, time to get in the boat. And I'd be like, all right, let's go. And so that was like a whole week then. And then that was the race that I flew home and went straight to the jet ski race, like same day. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to work for half a week. And then I got on the plane again and went to Venice. And it was just like, that was my first like back-to-back international experience. And like, I still feel like I haven't recovered. Like jokingly, I've been telling my friends that I have like an E1 hangover where it's like, we go and I'm fired up and we're there for a week and we're going. And then we get home and I just die. Like I just like TKO, like don't even know where I am. And because it's like you're just like on this high and then you come home and you're like, oh my God. And then you turn around and you do it again.
Such is life. Well, it's like I tell people, I'm like, I enjoy it because I never know when the wheels are going to fall off. So it's like enjoy it. Yeah, you're always waiting. That's like I'm like I look at the last year of my life and I'm like, man, it's been like a good run. Like you take a 12-month window, I'm like, I've had a really good run. I'm like, all right, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Because it can't be this good. So
yeah, I feel that way all the time where like right now I'm in my stride. Like I'm like, uh-oh, like I think last year I was kind of at my low. Like I had some just stuff going on at home where I was like, I'm kind of miserable right now. And then all of a sudden it was just like skyrocket positivity. And now we're here and I'm just like waiting. Like one of the wheels is going to fall off. They're not squeaking yet, but they're probably going to be soon if I keep driving it like this.
Well, and for those listening at home, what we're talking about, you wonder why she has 3 or 4 jobs and I have 3 or 4 jobs. It's because if one of the jobs like bellies up, we've still got 2 or 3 to rely on to keep the mortgage paid.
Backup plans.
So it's like you want to know what it takes to be an influencer, a motorsports athlete, or whatever. Literally have like 4 jobs because at some point something's going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about side hustles. Like they haven't gotten into motorsports yet. Like you gotta, every time you come up with a new hobby, you gotta find a new job to support that hobby. So it's like you're always working on something.
Oh gosh, it's like yeah, people have no idea. Like even the people that are up on a pedestal, how many side hustles and things like that they do that you never see on social media.
Yeah, I like sharing it because I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of the stuff that like all the hoops and the grinding that we do to like get to the jet ski race or whatever that looks like. Like I was very disappointed in myself for destroying my pump like a rookie, but I was like, look guys, like this is the reality. Anna breaks it. Anna has to fix it. All her friends make fun of her. My dad tells me I'm an idiot. Like that's just how my life works these days. Like if I want to go racing, I have to figure it out. And so there's other people that I think can relate to that are, you know, racing for a hobby, you know, and to be able to tell those people like, hey, like, you know, if you come up with another side hustle, then you can do all these other things too. Like, I think people can relate to that. And I'm all about like the little guy, you know, like living the dream.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we are a little over an hour. That's not bad for going into this with 0 notes. I just completely
winging it. Dude, I can talk all day. You know it. I am the mayor of Yap City, dude.
That's what I was like, yeah, at some point you and I just need to go grab lunch or something. I'll drive up there. We can catch up.
A 3-hour-long lunch.
Yeah, it'll be an afternoon. Might as well just bring the jet skis too.
The Rigid Chase Lite incorporates 5 modes, including stroke, brake, running, courtesy, and reverse in a compact 7-inch by 2-inch fixture. The Rigid Chase attaches to any roll bar or flat mounting surface, and users can control each of the multiple functions independently. The Rigid Chase is one more way for off-road enthusiasts to own the night.
All right, and we are back to wrap things up here on the Gentle Tire Jim Beaver Show. That was my good friend JetGirl, Anna Glennon. You should be following her on social media if you're not, because she posts some ridiculously insane content. Now that she's traveling all over the world with the E1 series, pretty rad. Pretty cool story that she's got. And if you missed the first part of that a year ago, you should do it, because listen to that one, which is very good, tells about her backstory. And then you jump into this year, and the change she's had in the last year has been pretty remarkable. It's in a good way, man. Just awesome. Girl hustles, she grinds. And, you know, it's like I tell everybody, man, you're only one decision away from and all new life. And Anna's proof of that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. Yeah, you guys are probably looking at me going, man, Jim's doing some quick clothing changes. Yeah, truthfully, I recorded the intro and outro of this in a different day than the actual Anna Glennon interview. So yes, I will put that as a disclaimer. That is the reason why you're seeing the clothing change. But yeah, stoked to get this one out. Big thanks to Anna for coming on. Big thanks to General Tire, Vision Wheel, Dirtfish, Rigid, and don't forget our friends at Apex Gaming PCs. Go to their website, click the link down here in the bottom, whether you're on YouTube or you're on the audio version. The link is there. And July 1st through the 6th, the 4th of July week, 25% off all Apex Gaming PCs. Same PCs that I game on, that I do the show on, that I edit on, and Apex always got me locked and dialed in, and you know, always cool when they run a special. And man, this special 25% off, it's next level insane. You definitely want to get in on that. So yes, I think I'm going to sign off for this week. Thanks to you guys for continuing to tune in, and we'll see you next time right here on the General Tire Jim Beaver Show.